I was going to post yesterday, but my internet went down. All the internet in my area went down for many hours, so didn't get a chance to post yesterday, so I'm posting today. But wanted to talk about that rally. And again, Bitcoin got to just over 9% at the highs of the rally. We ended up closing about 8.25% higher, coming up 20 period we saw in the daily time that you'll see in this video in the daily time frame. Got this bottoming signal here, whether that's a short-term bottom or the major bottom. It really depends on if the S&P 500 can clear the 20 period moving average with these lows right here. And we got to be able to clear it. And then we got to be able to flip all the red signals, the red bars and all the red going on here. Got to flip it all back to green, and to this line needs to turn back to blue, and we need to see that happen. Again, we got the signals over here, but it was just a counter trend. Now we get a signal here. It could be a bottom, or it could be a short-term bottom that gives us this bounce. I think you got a good shot that we're, again, in a bottoming process. Again, some great signals marking the December top, marking the January top over here, this January low over here. Tightening of the Bollinger Bands tell us something was going to happen. Well, we saw a sell-off, but it could be we have something like what we have over here. We went to the upper band, Bollinger Bands tightened, we went to the upper band, then we went to the lower band, but then we went back and we rallied and we made new highs. Here, we went to the upper band, and then we went to the lower band. Could we get a rally? Possibly. The signal can mark a bottom if we can establish now a higher low and get another higher high. To be able to clear this area of resistance right here separates these two lows, which again is possibly a larger double bottom pattern. We did have some other bottoming signals, not just this one, and we've gotten a few more. We've got to see things begin to turn. At the lows of the session yesterday before the rally happened, one did form right here, but the big rally, it went away, so it got canceled out. We don't have to form one here, but you may. It could be this signal is marking the bottoming process. Doesn't have to show up, but it could, just something I'm watching. This is interesting. Again, I got a signal here. I told you about this right here as we hit Bitcoin's average price. Got that one signal, and then we got the rally yesterday, got another one. And again, this is what appeared back up at the January top. So again, do we have a bottom on our hands? We're getting some bottoming signals. Again, the signals have done a good job. The December reversal, this bottom right here, we went a little bit lower, but then we rebounded. You got the top right here. You got the counter trend right here. And again, showing where potential momentum turns can happen based on price exhaustion up and down. And again, here got a counter trend. And then we got another signal here, and we got another counter trend. Could this be a counter trend or a bottoming signal this time around? But it's marked each one of these bottoms very nicely. So again, could see a bigger rally and build upon what we have here if this low can hold Bitcoin's average price. I am getting other bullish signals. Got one the other day here, and then I got another one yesterday here. And it's telling us, hey, momentum could begin to shift back to the upside here. That's what it's telling us. The signals aren't perfect, but they're telling us where a shift in momentum might take place. Here we're getting one yesterday right there. And again, catching some of the momentum turns here. Didn't complete the bottom here, but it marked shifts in momentum, marked a shift in momentum here. And then it was validated by selling signals. The top got this signal shift in momentum validated by selling signals. We got an early signal here. We went higher, but then it was validated later by selling signals. So again, here is when the oscillator's in negative territory and you've got red going on and you've got a cloud going on, bad stuff's happening. We tried to flip it to green, couldn't do it. Now we're back to red. Got to flip it back to green. So can the momentum flip it? We'll be watching, but we are getting some of these signals that are saying, hey, we should be aware of that a bottom might try to form here. If we can establish a higher low, we could get a bigger rally with Bitcoin to try to break the downward trend line, to try to get back above the 50 period in the daily time frame. We've got to see my signals begin to all turn back to bullish here. I still have red bars, momentum's negative. Again, the red line, get above it, we'll be shifting and we'll be making a U-turn. Over here, we made a U-turn down here. We shifted. We dropped below it, came back up. We got rejection at it. And again, tried to get some green bars and green momentum, but it failed and you couldn't clear it. And now we've come down here. Got to be able to clear this area. I got to be able to get back above this ribbon right here and the black line right here. Black line acted as support. Okay, and then we broke it, and now it's resistance, and we fell below it here and tried to get back above it. It failed. Got rejection at it. Got rejection at it. So we got to get back above the red line. Got to get back above the black line. You got to get back above the ribbon. The ribbon, we were holding above it. We tried to drop below it and ended up bouncing, and then we lost it. So you got to clear the red line, the black line, the ribbon to turn this around. The momentum with the and I've got the line here drawn with red circles so you can see the difference between the two red lines. But this red circle line right here, you got to be able to get back above that, and this momentum ribbon right here, you got to be able to get back above these levels to shift the trend. So if we can do that right now, again, everything's still red. You got more work to be done here. Bulls are going to turn this around and expect more good tariff news to relieve the selling pressure on Bitcoin and the stock market. What we're being told is not going to happen. It is going to happen. Here we tried to flip momentum back to bullish, couldn't flip the trend. The bars turned right back to red. Line turned right back to red. We pulled back here and we've gone lower, but the signal is still bullish. Again, we're trying to bottom, and then we're getting a bullish signal with yesterday's rally here. So again, more work to be done if we're going to turn this around. 50 crossing below the 200 could be associated with a bottoming process with Bitcoin. It often is. Here, I still have red bars, red oscillator. If we're going to turn this around, we got to break the trend line. You got to get green bars. You got to get the oscillator going into the positive region. You've got a divergence, a bullish divergence that's formed right here. So again, got to turn this around. But we've seen the red bars show up and the oscillator went bearish right after that. To flip the cloud here with momentum, couldn't do it. So again, still more work to be done. Many of the indicators you see in my videos, I created myself, and the script I wrote for this one here, I programmed it to be very sensitive to turns. Again, mark the turns here, the turn back up very nicely, but ever since we've got the turn here, it's been bearish up until we got right over here. We got some green bars, and it's really just showing sideways. But the bars, even with yesterday's rally, are still red. So again, we've got to flip the bars right here and in order to turn things around. Now, same thing here. Again, we've got red. The concern right now is that the sell-off right now is, okay, the rally's failing. That's the narrative on social media right now. Again, we're likely in a bottoming process. And if we establish a higher low, then the bottom very well could be in with Bitcoin. You got to be able to get back above the 200 period. You got to be able to break the downward trend line. Here the bars are still red. Got to flip back to green bars. Flip the cloud back to bullish, and that means a rally to try to move towards the 200 to break out above it and the downward trend line. Here momentum is negative. We got to be able to get back up here. Flip momentum back to bullish if we're going to establish this as a low. Otherwise, the risk is we go down to 70 or 71,000. Please support the channel with the link directly below. That allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like the charts, you like the indicators, let me know that by supporting the channel. I share with you the things that I look at every single day. I don't want sponsors. I don't want to send you to exchanges that get you all leveraged up to wipe you out. Just ask that you support the channel. Most of the money on YouTube channels is made through sponsors. I choose not to do that. I need to hear from you in order to make that work. If you like my indicators, let me know that you want that information by supporting the channel today. If you could take a moment to help out, I would really, really appreciate it. Take a look. Again, we've got this 9 count going on in the weekly time frame. Good shot. Bitcoin's in a bottoming process. Now, sometimes you get a 9 count, you go a little bit lower. That's what I'm saying. We still might go to that trend line that I've been talking about in previous videos, to the 2022 trend line near the 70 to 71,000 area, maybe 72,000, depending on when we come into contact with it. If you get a reversal bar here this week, right now we have a spinning top. The week is not over yet, but if we get a reversal bar, or if we get a reversal bar next week, again, you could establish a bottom. We got the 9 count. We went a little bit higher. Counts are showing price exhaustion. Here we've had a 13 count in the daily time frame and we've gone a little bit lower. Sometimes that happens. Over here you had a 13 count and it marked the very day of the top. Over here the 9 count the very day after the top. Here we got a 9 count, it gave us a counter trend. So again, this 13 count is either giving us a counter trend rebound or it could still establish a bottom. We had a 9 count to the upside that was a 9 count to the downside that was trying to possibly complete, and that could have given us a 13.9. It's questionable whether it will complete today because we are now canceling it out and we get a one of a 9 to the upside, which is the red count above the bar there. The 5 of the 9 to the downside is being canceled out, at least so far, but we won't know until the close, the final bar. If you close above the bar from 4 bars ago, 1, 2, 3, 4. If we close above this bar on Bitcoin right here, then it will cancel out that 9 count to the downside. And if we drop by the end of the session below that area, then below this bar from 4 bars ago, then it's on a closing basis, not on an intraday basis. But if we push below it, then the count will remain, and we'll have bar 6. Means you might get a 13.9 if we go down to the 70 or 71,000 area. So do keep that in mind. That's still possible until we begin to see my signals all begin to turn back to bullish. Not there yet. We have some possible bottoming signals, including this 13 count, but we need to see more. We need to see momentum shift and then the trend signal shift all back to bullish. With Bitcoin, I'm getting more positive signals, but we got to flip the momentum line. See this little red line right here? The momentum line's got to go back to bullish. The bars have to go back to green. They tried to turn over here. Momentum line tried to turn bullish, but it failed and we came back down. Now I'm getting some bottoming signals. I told you that, again, they're looking at short-term momentum. They could establish a bottom. These over here just established a short-term bottom here and over here for counter-trend rallies. This, if it's going to be a major bottom, we got to see the balance of power go back into positive territory. We got to get back above the 200 period and we got to break the downward trend line. Flip the trend signals back to bullish. The cloud here has got to flip back to bullish. We've got to start seeing bullish things happen if we're going to bounce up Bitcoin's average price, if we're going to establish a bottom. But for what it's worth, we're getting some bullish signals here. That could be the sign that we are attempting a bottom. Now, no green circle has formed like at this bottom or this bottom. This bottom was just a counter trend, but we didn't have a red circle at the top either. Again, it's just looking at momentum. These signals are just looking at shifts in momentum, and sometimes they mark important tops and important bottoms. But they need to be confirmed by the balance of power. And again, this rally over here, we never saw the balance of power shift. Over here, we saw it shift, but then it went right back to bearish. It's got to go turn green and turn bullish and remain that way. Bitcoin's daily chart. Now, again, here I have programmed the bars to be very sensitive to the turns, just like I talked about with my other indicator that I created. Again, here, very sensitive to the turns. Move here, it failed. We did it right here. Didn't last, and then the signals turned bearish. We tried to flip it right here. Now we're on a bearish signal. This has to turn back to green bars, and it has to be validated with the line turning back to blue. Again, if we can clear the downward trend line, if we can clear the 200 period moving average not seen here and get above this high right here, this is now a potential confirmation line for a double bottom. If we have a peak, a bottom over here and a bottom over here, then we can establish that 74,000 area as a low. Then we can flip everything back to bullish. But you got to see my signals. You got to see momentum turn back to bullish. Then you got to see a trend signals turn back to bullish. We don't have that yet, but you got a shot at a bottom with some of the bottoming signals that we're getting. So we got to see it confirmed by my signals, by things turning to green bars here, and then being validated with the line turning back to blue. I believe Bitcoin is going to go above 90,000 again. I think it's going to be headed towards 100,000. Actually, I think it will make new highs. Now we're in a bottoming process, and is it done? I am getting bottoming signals, but I need confirmation with momentum to turn back to bullish. A rally back up would do that. Will we establish this as a bottom, as a low now? we've got to see the momentum flip back to bullish and then the trend signals turn back to bullish. At the moment, Bitcoin is down 4.5% or so. And again, we had that rally as high as 9% there, I believe it was, and gave us just over 9%. We gave some of it back at the 20-period moving average. The blue line you see right there, bouncing up Bitcoin's average price. And again, we've got the divergence over here. It gave us this bottom, the rally to the 200. Now we pull back, tried to rally to get back above the 200. It failed and stalled at the 50 and our trend line of resistance. Then we came back down and tested this low and bounced up Bitcoin's average price. Horizontal support at 74,000. Now we could still break 74,000. If we do, you get the rising trend line from the 2022 low at around 70 or 71,000, depending on when we come into contact with that 70, 71, maybe 72,000. Just eyeballing at that range right there. You still have this bull flag. We have a little tiny miniature double bottom on the intraday charts on the 4-hour chart there. So again, we're going to be watching if we could try to get back above the 20-period moving average, back above the 50 as we've had the death cross below the 200. And then we got to be able to clear that trend line if we're going to try to bottom right here, forming the multiple point divergence on the RSI and here on the MACD. So far, we have a little Class B divergence where we got pretty much two equal lows, or you can say confirmation of a higher low, one or the other, but almost two equal lows. This one was a little bit lower, and we rallied up here to the 50 and the 200 as the 50 crossed back below the 200 here in the 4-hour time frame. Got to be able to get back above that 200 period to turn this around. Then the 50's got to get back above the 200 period. The risk is that we still end up going down to the trend line of support at 71,000 or so and end up going lower. Again, little Class B divergence or confirmation of a higher low, whichever you will. But in order to turn this around, we're stalling at this 200. In order to turn this around, you got to be able to clear the 200 period. You got to be able to clear the downward trend line, and then you got to be able to get back above the 50 period in the daily. We're stalling at the 200 here in the 4-hour time frame. We're stalling at the 20 period in the daily time frame. Do we get a higher low now? Or do we come back and we move towards that 71,000 area? You can drop below the 74,000 area, but you better not stay below it. Staying below it would be bearish. I think Bitcoin is in a bottoming process. I think we eventually break out and clear this downward trend line, eventually get back above the 50-period moving average in the daily, eventually get back above the 200 here in the 4-hour time frame. Now, yesterday we had Trump give us good tariff news. We're going to get more. I told you that, again, you're either going to start seeing deals, a lot of these tariffs go away and paused, or I told you Trump might pause them. He ended up pausing them. We've talked about this at great length and detail. We were told, no way that's going to happen. No. We're just going to, the media's been telling us, we're just going to see the economy collapse. That's what they always say. That's what they said back in 2018. That's what they've been saying with the tariffs back in February and March. We get the reciprocal tariffs saying the same thing. Oh no. Again, we're going to see a rally of hope. We're going to see good tariff news. We're already seeing it. We were told that Trump's just going to put these tariffs on and that's it. It's over. And I mean, you got to be pretty naive to believe that countries are not going to come to the negotiating table. But we've seen 75 countries come to the negotiating table. On the day of the tariff launch yesterday, those countries got their tariffs paused and a 10% across the board tariff. So they got rewarded for not retaliating. China got their tariffs increased. It said to 125%, but actually the White House is clarifying that. That's in addition to the other 20%. And again, remember that the tariffs got raised to 104% on average. So the White House is clarifying it's actually 145%. So the market and Bitcoin are having some volatility right now. And then Canada's threatening their retaliatory tariffs. Maybe they didn't learn anything from what just happened with China. But again, they're saying, oh, if Trump will drop his, they'll drop theirs. They need to drop their tariffs and, again, get negotiating with the U.S. See if they've learned anything. But again, actually a brilliant position to take as far as negotiating, because all these countries are now seeing what just happened to China. Trump's making an example of what happens when you play games and when you don't want to be serious about negotiating and you want to retaliate. Lowered all these tariffs. If these countries are going to come down and negotiate with the United States, and if they don't play ball, if they don't make realistic and reasonable offers when it comes to negotiating the trade agreement, I'm going to say, okay, well, go ahead. We'll just jack your tariffs back up. They know he'll do it. It's a very, very good negotiating tactic because it motivates the different countries to want to secure a deal. That was really, really good. China's still going to get a deal, but they're going to probably continue to play games a little bit more. Maybe we see in the next few days that China finally capitulates, and at some point that's going to happen. They need the U.S. I mean, seeing all the media. Oh, they don't. Praising China, how they're standing up to the bullying. China has horrible trade practices. They treat their workers terribly. They have no rights. You've got slave labor going on over there. And the United States is supposed to be able to compete with that? You got to level the playing field. So I do see what he's doing. China has predatory trading practices. They cheat, they steal. Companies go over there, they steal intellectual property. Kind of stuff's got to stop. Manipulate their currency. And I think that you're going to see China eventually cave. They just need a good wake-up call. And they tested Trump. Trump called their bluff. And again, now they know they get it. And I tell you, do it again. I think Trump should just tell China, every time you do this, we're going to raise it. Whatever you decide to raise it to, we're going to raise it in addition to 100% or something like that. Wake them up. They cannot, and again, the media is telling us, that they're going to be able to weather the storm. They cannot. Their economy is already in shambles. It's already crashing. They need the U.S. consumer to buy their stuff. They export to the U.S. 5 times the amount the U.S. exports to China. Need the U.S. consumer to survive. They cannot win a trade war with the United States. The market's a little bit more rattled, but we're going to see, again, eventually the shift and the focus on the tax cuts. We're going to see these deals being reached, these tariffs going away. Even China is eventually going to come to the negotiating table, kicking and screaming, but they're going to come. Throwing a little temper tantrum, but they're going to come. Either that or they go into the economic abyss. Their choice. So I think that eventually they will capitulate and come to their senses and finally go to the negotiating table. And eventually that will happen. Now take a look at the Bitcoin futures. Now, as we've had the rally yesterday, we rallied back up to the moving averages. We stalled there. Here we bounced off of the 200 period after dipping below Bitcoin futures. And now we're pulling back right now. Concerns about the tensions with China and the United States, concerns about Canada going forward with a tariff, retaliatory tariff, and then Trump responding further. But again, last time they caved. Canada needs the U.S. markets. The U.S. doesn't need Canada. Canada already has high tariffs. So again, some trade tensions. Look what's happening right now. We're getting a green bar on the awesome oscillator. So it's possible now we're, again, pulling back, but the lows here are going to set up a higher low on the pullback. We'll be watching to see, because again, we take out 74,000, our recent low on Bitcoin, and move down to the 70 or 71,000 area where the trend line from the 2022 low comes in place. I'm going to show you that a divergence over here, okay, and we got this bounce, okay, tried to flip momentum back to bullish. And we saw momentum signals on Bitcoin flip back to bullish, and here at Bitcoin futures, flip back to bearish, and now we've got this larger divergence. We've got this larger divergence now, a triple bullish divergence. MACD doing the same thing here. So if we can establish a bottom and begin to move and rally above this area, and you can start clearing the 50 period, you can start clearing the downward trend line, you can complete this divergence. But with our pullback right here, again, we're seeing the green cloud. Expect more good tariff news. Keep saying it. We keep being told it's not going to happen, but yet that's what we're getting.